It is February 1959. The temperature outside is minus 30 degrees Celsius. The wind is screaming across the mountain like something alive. And inside a small canvas tent, 9 people are sleeping. They are warm, they are safe, they have food, boots, coats, and everything they need to survive the night. Then something happens. Something that causes all 9 of them to grab knives and slash open the tent from the inside. Something that sends them running barefoot into the darkness, into the freezing cold, away from their only shelter, away from their only chance of survival. They never come back. And more than 60 years later, nobody, not scientists, not investigators, not the world's best researchers, can fully explain what they ran from that night. This is their story. Before we go any further, do one thing right now. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell. Because what you are about to watch is not a theory. It is not fiction. This is a real event, real people, and a mystery that has never been solved. Off Record covers the cases that don't make headlines, the stories that keep investigators awake at night. If that is what you are here for, you are in the right place. Now, let's get into it. The Soviet Union, January 1959. A group of 10 young hikers gathers in the city of Yekaterinburg, packed and ready for the adventure of a lifetime. Their destination is the Ural Mountains, a brutal, remote stretch of wilderness in the far north of Russia. Their goal is to reach a peak called Otorten, a challenging route classified as the highest difficulty level in Soviet mountaineering. These are not amateurs. Every single one of them has years of experience in the wilderness. They know cold weather. They know mountains. They know how to survive. Their leader is Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, brilliant, meticulous, respected by everyone in the group. When Igor plans an expedition, people feel safe. He is the kind of person who checks everything twice, who never takes unnecessary risks. With him are 8 others. Young men and women in their 20s, engineers, students, athletes, friends who trust each other completely. Before they leave, they are laughing, taking photographs, excited about what lies ahead. One member of the group falls ill early in the journey. He has no choice but to turn back. The remaining 9 push forward. The last photographs taken show smiling faces, bright eyes, arms around each other's shoulders. Nobody realizes these are the final images of the group alive. The mountain does not welcome them. As the group moves deeper into the wilderness, the weather begins to shift. The sky thickens, the wind picks up speed. The temperature drops, lower and lower, until the cold itself feels like a physical weight pressing down on them from every direction. Navigation becomes difficult. Visibility drops. The group realizes they have drifted slightly off course, pushed sideways by the storm. The experienced hiker's choice at this point is clear. Find shelter, dig in, wait for the weather to pass. Igor makes a decision that will be studied and debated for decades. Instead of moving down toward the tree line where the forest would have offered natural protection, the group stops on an exposed, open slope partway up the mountain. Why they did not move lower, nobody knows for certain. Perhaps the storm moved too fast. Perhaps they underestimated how much worse the night would become. Perhaps there was a reason they never had the chance to explain. They set up their tent. They eat dinner. 9 people settle in for the night on a barren, windswept slope, surrounded by nothing but snow and darkness and the sound of the mountain breathing around them. That is the last normal moment any of them will ever have. Back home, families wait. The group was expected to return by the 12th of February. The date passes, no word, no contact. A few days of silence can be explained. Mountains are unpredictable. These things happen. But a week passes, then 2 weeks. The silence becomes something darker. Search parties are organized. Experienced rescuers are sent into the mountains. Soldiers, volunteers, and fellow hikers fan out across the wilderness looking for any trace of the group. The search takes days. Then, on the 26th of February 1959, they find the tent. It is half buried in snow on the open slope, partially collapsed, almost invisible against the white landscape. The searchers approach carefully. What they see stops them cold. The tent has been cut open from the inside. Not torn by wind, not ripped by an animal. Cut, deliberately, with a knife or blade, from the inside. The investigators lean in closer. Inside the tent, everything is exactly as the group left it. Dinner is sitting there, half finished. 9 pairs of boots are lined up neatly. Warm coats, gloves, hats, all the clothing that would mean the difference between life and death in temperatures this extreme, still sitting exactly where they were placed. Not a single person stopped to put on their shoes before leaving. 9 experienced mountaineers, people who knew better than almost anyone on Earth what it meant to be unprepared in weather like this, walked away without their boots. It makes no sense. But the footprints in the snow make it even stranger. The tracks do not show people running in panic, scattering in every direction. They show 9 people walking together. Deliberately, moving away from the tent and heading toward the tree line below, as if following some kind of plan. Some tracks show bare feet in the snow, others show only socks. They are moving away from safety, and the investigators have no idea why. The searchers follow the footprints. The trail leads down the slope, across open ground, toward the edge of a forest, perhaps 1.5 kilometers away. At the tree line, beneath a large cedar tree, they find the first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They're dressed only in their underclothes. They've clearly attempted to build a fire. The cedar tree's lower branches have been broken off, pulled down, it appears, by someone who climbed the tree, perhaps to look back toward the tent. What did they see from up there? What were they looking at that night? 3 more bodies are found between the forest and the tent. The positions tell a painful story. These 3 appear to have been trying to make their way back to camp, back to the boots and the coats and the shelter they had abandoned. They did not make it. The cause of death for all 5 found so far, hypothermia. They froze to death in the open air. But 4 members of the group are still missing. It takes until May for the snow to melt enough to find them. The final 4 bodies are discovered together, buried under several meters of snow at the bottom of a ravine near the tree line. And this is where the mystery stops being explainable. These 4 show injuries that hypothermia alone cannot account for. One has a fractured skull. Several have broken ribs, the kind of fractures associated with extreme force, the kind of pressure a car crash might produce. One is missing her tongue. Yet there are no external wounds, no cuts on the skin, no bruising that would match a fall or a fight. The injuries are internal, as if something crushed them from the outside with enormous invisible force. The radiation levels detected on some of their clothing later add yet another layer of confusion that investigators struggle to explain for years. The official Soviet investigation concludes that the group died due to, quote, a compelling natural force, end quote. The case is closed. The files are sealed. For 30 years, nobody outside a small circle even knows the full details of what was found. When the files are eventually reopened and the story reaches the wider world, the theories begin. The most discussed is an avalanche. The idea is that a sudden wall of snow struck the tent in the night, creating enough panic to force the group out into the cold. It would explain the injuries. It would explain the rush. But investigators who walked the site point out the slope was not steep enough, the snow conditions were not right, and crucially, the tent itself was not buried when searchers found it weeks later. Others point to infrasound. Certain wind conditions moving over a mountain can generate low-frequency sound waves that humans cannot hear but can feel. The effect, tested in laboratories, can cause sudden, extreme panic, disorientation, a desperate, irrational need to escape. It would explain why experienced hikers abandoned rational thinking entirely and ran into the cold without their boots.
Some researchers believe a military weapons test went wrong that night. There were reports of strange glowing spheres seen in the sky above the Ural Mountains around that time. Other hikers reported the same lights. What caused them was never officially explained. Others still believe the answer is simpler. A fight, a confrontation with strangers in the mountains, someone or something that came to the tent that night and drove them out into the cold. Every theory, examined closely, leaves something unexplained. The avalanche does not account for the radiation. The infrasound does not account for the internal injuries. The military theory does not explain why only this group, on this night, in this specific place. No single answer fits every piece of the puzzle. Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustam Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenchenko, Ludmila Dubinina, Alexander Zolotaryov, Nikolai Thibault Brignoles, Alexander Kolevatov. 9 names, 9 people who were skilled, careful, experienced, and alive on the night of February 1st, 1959. Something happened in those dark hours on the slope of that mountain. Something that overrode every instinct, every piece of training, every rational thought they had ever developed. Something that told 9 experienced mountaineers that staying inside a warm tent was more dangerous than running barefoot into minus 30-degree air. Whatever it was, it worked, because they ran, and the mountain took them. More than 60 decades have passed since that night. Russia has reinvestigated the case multiple times, most recently in 2019, officially landing on an avalanche as the most probable cause. Many researchers remain unconvinced. New expeditions have walked that same slope. Scientists have modeled the snowpack, the wind patterns, the acoustics of the terrain. Documentaries have been made, books have been written. Families of the victims have spent lifetimes searching for answers. The mountain gives nothing back. The snow still falls there. The wind still screams across that exposed slope, exactly as it did the night 9 people disappeared from the inside of a tent they had to cut their way out of. And the question, the one question that sits at the center of all of it, remains exactly where it was on the morning of February 2nd, 1959.
What were they running from? What could possibly have been worse than the cold? Whatever it was, they took the answer with them. And somewhere beneath the ice and the silence of those mountains, it is still there, waiting.
9 people entered those mountains, none of them came back, and the question that haunted investigators in 1959 still has no answer today. So tell me, what do you think happened that night? Drop your theory in the comments. I read every single one. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Off Record and hit the bell. Every week a new case, every case a real story. Some are solved, most are not. And the next one is already waiting for you. Until then, some stories are solved, others remains off the record.